2022 GSL Season 2. Africa TV, Freak Up Studio, live. 2022 GSL Season 2.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of the GSL Code S. I'm Tasteless. Joined with me is State. How are you doing, man?
Doing fantastic.
Yeah, dude.
It is good to be back here at GSL. We had a really great start to the season on a couple of days ago. Some surprising results. We got another stacked group. I can't wait to get into the action, man.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Rogue, dying out immediately here in day 1. Of course, if you guys are asking, where's Artosis? Unfortunately, he still is ill with COVID-19. We're wishing him the best. But thank you for coming in again, man, and helping us out. I appreciate it.
Unfortunately, you guys have to deal with me for one more day.
It was honestly a great cast earlier on Monday. So I'm looking forward to this one as well. I do have a feeling that this day might just kind of go quicker than the other. I feel like the types of players we have, and at least the starting matchups that we have, a lot of these guys are not like long macro players, but players that kind of play to end the game at a specific moment in time. Yeah,
they'll try to take some kind of lead or catch their opponents off guard with some prepared build and just go in for the kill. I mean, ByuN is a player that really can grind it out and just kill somebody, like straight ahead.
Totally.
Same with Zest, really aggressive Protoss player. So yeah, it might be a quick one. Here we got the round of 20 bracket. Of course, Monday, Group A. Hero and DRG, kind of surprising. I mean, that was a rough one for Rogue. And today here, Zest, soO, ByuN, and ByuN. We got 2 Terrans, 1 Protoss, 1 Zerg, nice little spread. And then next week, Estrella, first foreigner to play in the new GSL format.
Yeah, dude, that's going to be a lot of fun. And we have a lot of other foreigners either just now getting into Korea or will be coming in. And keep that in mind as we get to Season 3. Obviously, that's months away. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're going to go back to what this tournament's actually called, the Global StarCraft League. And not just global because we have English casting, global because we have foreigners coming down to compete. Of course, Korea was pretty much locked up from the outside world over the last 2 years because of the pandemic. So it's going to be fun to cast Estrella, but that is just, just the start of foreign presence again here in our tournament.
It's fantastic to have the country opening up again. I mean, just having an audience here in the arena is fantastic. Having the players here, getting more foreigners coming in now that restrictions are lifting a little bit. It's a bright future for GSL.
Yeah, dude, and today's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to start this out on match 4-4-4-4.
All right.
All right, we did it, guys. All of the GSL was to lead up to this moment when we had 4 number 4s. We're ending this whole show after this match.
Zest, one thing that I'm really curious about is we've seen Protoss players kind of struggle in PvZ for what feels like a really long time. I mean, occasionally, like some kind of timing attack will catch people off guards. We'll get Protoss winning series. It's not completely one-sided, but the way that Hero played on Monday in this kind of like almost caveman Ooga Boonga gateway style Protoss, where it's macro hard, it was so dominant. I wonder if we're seeing the meta start to shift.
It's an interesting point, State, and one thing to keep in mind is the way that Zest plays, he's very much a timing attack guy, which is sort of not what we saw from Hero, right? Hero just wants to kind of draw the game out until he's suddenly leveraged the position where the roles are reversed, and he has more bases, and by then the Zerg's just, it's too late.
Right. So my question is whether we're going to see something similar from Zest in any of these games, because again, this is a meta that's starting to develop. I mean, Hero has been doing these kind of tactics for what feels like a couple months now, but he even said in his interview, it's taken a while to get to this point where it's nice and refined, and we're getting ready to go into game number 1 right now. Zest and soO, man, I can't wait.
Dude, this is going to be a lot of fun. It's good to have soO back finally. You know, it's always sad when you see these guys go, but GSL and StarCraft 2 have now been out for so long. We're kind of watching these guys go from their adolescent youths as pros, do their military service or sometimes go to university and then come back and compete. And so soO, it's going to be interesting to see how he performs this season, but Zest, one of the best Protosses around, should be a fun match. We're going to start this out on the map Hardwire in this best of 3 to start out Group B in the GSL.
Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Zest. Kwangdong Freaks. soO.
So before we get too in the thick of it of this game, I know a lot of people skip the intros of the show, especially if they watch the VODs, which is most of the people that watch GSL. So I'm here with State. Artosis had COVID and wasn't able to come in, and he recovered from that, but he got monkeypox this morning, so he can't be here. That's too bad. I don't know, hopefully by Monday he doesn't have a third, rare virus, but we're wishing him the best. Hopefully he stays away from monkeys.
It's all that StarCraft Food War ladder, man.
Yeah, it's all losing to B rank Protosses. He eventually got monkeypox.
The stress, it takes a toll on the human body,
Yeah.
Your immune system, it becomes weakened.
Yeah.
If he played Protoss or Zerg, maybe he would still be nice and healthy, but Terran, man.
Yeah, no, you're exposing yourself to a lot of disease.
Yeah.
When you do that. So, again, to kind of zoom out and go big picture, and we'll see if it turns out to be the case in this game, but we have to point it out because with Rogue being knocked out by Hero, and then Hero bringing such a new play style, one that we really haven't seen before, at least on GSL or anything of the sort. Hero was winning with this kind of abstract style of just making stalkers and then using oracles and having sort of this mobile fighting group, and then never fully engaging, basically trading out, staying ahead, and then continuing to expand to where he either matched or outpaced the Zerg and then won. And I've never seen anything like it in GSL before. It was kind of crazy, and we had heard whisperings about this play style leading up to this, but to see it played out here now was very cool. So the question is Zest going to do this, or is Zest going to play more like the Zest we've seen in the past?
Absolutely. That's one of my big questions coming into this is how much has Hero's new strategy kind of defined the meta between the time of the last season of GSL and now? Because, I mean, as we were talking about before this match, this is a matchup that hasn't been super favorable for Protoss as of late. I mean, timing attacks, of course, can win games. Occasionally get Protosses that go into Sky Toss and things kind of snowball, but it hasn't really been the best matchup. And so Hero kind of coming in with a new style that can potentially branch out into, I mean, we saw him attempt, it didn't work, but we saw him attempt to even leverage that into like a Blink Stalker all in effectively. I think that was the third base of DRG, if I'm not mistaken. If we see some kind of play style like that become popular, I mean, generally when Zerg struggles in competitive play, it's right after a patch or right after a big shift in the meta, because Zergs, they thrive when the game is almost solved to a point.
Yeah,
where
when the meta's cemented and they know what to expect from the other races, so it's really just a matter of can you stop it.
But we see Zest throwing down a second Stargate, so doesn't look like it will be that heavy Blink Stalker style that we have been seeing from Hero on day number 1. And we'll see exactly where he goes from here. He does have one Phoenix out right now, just cleaning up that Overlord at his natural and now patrolling across on the map. We'll try to find some damage over here on the third base, but 3 Queens already ready for him.
Okay.
Yeah. Not going to get anything done there, buddy.
Yeah, that Oracle taking quite a bit of damage. Went right through those Queens, actually. And with that amount of HP left over, which isn't very much, you're not going to be able to do that much with the Oracle, but with the double Stargate play on 2 bases, by the way, this is going to be an extremely different PvZ than the kind that challenged the meta that we saw on Monday, but I welcome this too. It's going to be 2 Stargate Phoenixes off of a third base. Now, I don't believe the second Stargate has been scouted or can be scouted for a while. I mean, the Phoenixes themselves can kind of kill that. So whenever you see like a 2 Stargate play, even though he stopped making, okay, no, he's going to start again. I was going to be like, that can't be the answer, is you make 3 Phoenixes out of 2 Stargates. But the idea is that you're just going to have so much more than what the Zerg is actually ready for, that the minimum defense they set up to protect the Overlords, drones, and Queens isn't going to be enough.
Right, we see that right now as Zest is starting to pick off some Overlords here in the main base. One more transfusion off, that Queen barely out of energy. And we'll see what the response is for soO, but now we're seeing another sudden tech switch here for Zest as he's throwing down 2 robotics facilities, so playing a really high-tech style right now. I think the building setup for him at home is 2 gateways, 2 Stargates, and now 2 Robos, just now beginning the Forge. And the Twilight Council, we'll see if he's able to find any more damage, but soO, I mean, to his credit, his Queen count's really high. He's got a Spore Crawler here. Some drones will go down, but this is almost inevitable when you get this number of Phoenixes here this early in the game.
Yeah, he's done a good job not really dropping the Phoenixes. There are some Banes being made here, and sometimes when you're microing the Phoenixes, that's when Baneling attacks can be so strong you're just not going to be watching. So let's see how quickly he's able to react here. He's picking up some drones now. He does bust through as he pulled the probes in time.
This has the potential to do a lot of damage right here.
Now
There's no
you're
shield
trapped in
battery
here with
set up.
me.
Oh, no. One thing that Phoenixes are not very good at is fighting Zerglings.
Yeah.
Might not be a surprise, but yeah, those 2 gateways right now coming back to ByuN. We see 4 more in production, but he can only warp in 2 gateway units at a time. And honestly, behind this, soO decided to go for this attack, and then he made a big round of drones. I think 10 plus were in production, but right now he might be kicking himself a little bit, because if this had been a full Ling Flood after this little mini bust right here at the natural, he could have got a lot of worker damage in, but as it stands, just going to be a 14 worker lead now for soO, so not the end of the world here for Zest, but soO, with that run by, is going to scout the 2 Robos. He has a very good idea of exactly what is going on in Zest's base. And for me, the question is, how is Zest going to take it from here? We see he's pumping out Immortals, but I mean, when you have your full tech tree kind of scouted out, as it happened there with soO going in for that run by, it's really not a good feeling. You want to have at least some level of... You don't want the Zerg to know exactly what you're doing, because they can just kind of navigate their army in a way that is going to be really punishing for you in the mid-game.
He did get to see that double Robo tech here, although we don't see the Robo being used right now, neither of them. And he's now going to go into Stalkers, you know, with the weapons attack. Now, again, we saw Mass Stalker before, you know, on Monday from Hero, but this is a very different game. We've had major techs, 2 of them, from the Stargates to the Robos here, so this is not the same kind of game. Maybe he'll try to make it look like that same kind of game, but we should just note the way that Zest got here is very different from the kind of meta shift that we were talking about earlier on in the show.
Absolutely. The tempo is totally different. I would say at this point, Hero would have been pushing for maybe even posturing to take a 5th base, but instead Zest right now doesn't really have that tempo. He doesn't have too much map control besides these Phoenixes, and he's just going to continue to pump out Immortals and Stalkers. Nice little catch here on these Banelings. Those Stalkers effectively a force field right there. Only a couple of probes, if any, going down there at the 3rd base is nice for Zest, because when you're on 3 Nexuses like this, just now starting the 4th, you really do not want your eco to get interrupted at all, as we see soO now pushing 85 drones, and from here on out, going to be a lot of military production. I don't know if Zest is going to be able to hang on against a push, because he doesn't really have any kind of splash damage to deal with the mass Ling Ravager flood that I feel like is almost inevitable at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I think he doesn't quite have the kind of weaponry to actually fight this. Immortals are not good against Ling Bane. I mean, Immortals don't die to Banes, but Lings are great against them. And, you know, the Banelings basically just have to avoid being targeted onto the Immortal, and everything else they hit is going to be of value. So, you know, this could be a 1-2 punch victory here for soO, where he's going to come in here and hammer the base. Maybe Zest barely survives, and then the next attack might finish him off.
Speaking of Immortals not dying to Banelings, that one tanked like 10 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
But this army for soO is really powerful right now. He's at 117 army supply. He is maxed. He wants to take this fight and instantly remax right now. The Zerglings coming in for the flood. A beautiful surround right here. No force fields to be seen. The Phoenixes are going to start lifting up some Ravagers, but that is just so much Zerg.
Yeah, this is an insane amount of damage. All the major tech has been destroyed with the exception of the 1 Immortal on the left. And it's very, very easy for soO to just remax out here. And Zest, you know, he took an unusual path to tech into the mid and late game here, and he's paying for it here. He just doesn't have the right tools at his disposal to recover from this with ease at all. Even though the Lings are going to be cleaned up, we know back at home there's a lot more Lings and everything else being made. And I think we are almost to the end of this first game.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think Zest might be able to stabilize against these Zerglings, but at that point, whenever you lose critical units, like, oh, he's just going to tap out, because whenever you lose critical units, like all of your Stalkers, all of your Immortals, I mean, you're relying, when you play this tech-heavy style, on keeping that army alive and effectively achieving a death ball. And so once that gets wiped out, I mean, realistically, he could have dragged that out, but there's no point.
You know, with the Immortal tech, it just kind of looked like Zest was trying to counter something that wasn't there. Where it's like, look, I know Immortals are great units and stuff, but I mean, not against what you're fighting. I mean, it was mostly Ling Bane. There were some Roaches and some Ravagers in the back, but, you know, soO basically sidestepped the tech that Zest had and punished him. We're going to go to 2,000 atmospheres here for map number 2.
Yeah, Zest off to a little bit of a rocky start here against soO, who, I mean, him coming back here into the GSL, it's a really great game number 1 right now. He's looking strong. He's looking very, very good. soO never seeming to, you know, be rusty, to put it at that. Zest needs to come back, or soO is going to 2-0 this. Let's go.
Dragon Phoenix Gaming, Zest. Kwangdong Freaks, soO.
You know, as we watched Heroes games in day 1 of GSL, we were kind of wondering a little bit about how many other Protoss players were able to try this, or if it was going to be something that was almost ByuN-esque in terms of the way that he's able to control his army and move across the map, being hard to replicate for these other players. And so I don't know, I still have that question in my head, because if you're able to get that movement down with the Blink Stalkers and the Oracles, and you are able to get the map awareness and set up the walls as Hero did pretty much effectively, flawlessly, and of course got some soO fans in the chat. soO's coming back now. People excited about this. It's so nice to have an audience.
In the studio,
in
bro.
the studio, excuse
me. The
me.
plebs are in the chat. They're at home in their pajamas.
I've been spending
this is here.
I've been spending too much time on Twitch, man.
I know.
But to the point that I was saying, it doesn't really surprise me that Zest was going for more of a tech-heavy style there, because what we saw from Hero is like, he has been workshopping this for a while, but it seems like the kind of thing that if you don't know it inside and out, and you're not able to position your Stalkers and move across on the map and retain your Stalker ball and keep all of the Oracles alive to prevent any like Zergling surrounds, it can just kind of collapse, right? And maybe that's something that a lot of these other Protoss players have attempted in practice and haven't really been able to make work consistently yet. But frankly, from my perspective at least, based on the matches that we saw in day number 1, it feels like such an effective way of playing this matchup that I'm still a little surprised that we're not seeing players attempt this just yet.
Yeah, like, you can see that when, like going back to that last game, right? Like, Zest went for the Phoenixes, and that also is a way to engage the Zerg, just like the Stalkers do. But the thing is, the Phoenixes basically come and kill a bunch of stuff, and then they have to leave. There's too many queens, and they're out of energy. And so it's like you hurt the Zerg, but the Zerg just kind of makes the drones again. It's not like it was nothing, but it seems like with the Stalker play, the threat is kind of constant. And, you know, you can choose to press and fight on when you think you have an advantage. And the moment you think you're losing, you blink off creep and use the Oracles to clean up anything underneath it. And it seems to just sort of have more momentum behind it.
It's all about momentum. It's all about tempo.
Yeah.
We saw Hero taking bases, as you said, on par with the Zerg, if not faster at some points. Yeah. And even in the late game, surpassing the Zerg in worker count as he's pumping 6 probes out at a time.
And it should be pointed out, like, I mean, this is being casted by 2 Protoss players. Like, that's not what the matchup looks like normally.
Absolutely.
Okay, like occasionally, and you know, I think a great version of like alternative approaches to matchups is when you hear people talk about mech as Terran players, where they go, oh, they're meching, so this is all kind of different. The whole game pacing is going to be, it's not going to look like if they went for bio tank or anything like that. But Yeah, we're kind of seeing something similar idea-wise to that, only this is more aggressive and less mech-like. But yeah, it's very cool to see. Now this time we have the Glaives upgrade coming here. Zest is making some more gates. He's got a third.
Zest has cut Worker. Okay, he's just now resuming pro production, making 2. For a second, I was wondering if this was going to be a feign, even with the gases, because it's a lot of Glaive Adepts that you can make off of 2 bases, and that third base with no residual pro production did make me curious, and we're going to see those Adepts moving out now, and this does still feel kind of a little bit like a feign. I mean, Zest is just sitting on 41 workers right now, maybe hoping that soO overdrone just a little bit, because he's really amped up to just continuously produce Adepts. I don't know if soO actually has...
Oh man, losing these Adepts immediately is actually really bad. Yeah. Especially when you're investing in Glaives. You really need to have like all the Adepts there. Even having 3 or 4 that have been picked off.
Okay.
So many Adept pressure builds are hinged on snowballing fights with the Adepts, which means you need to have an overwhelming amount that once you get them weakened, they can never get back up.
Yeah, I'm not liking this for Zest anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he lost those 2 Adepts, and there's a very small Ling run by the third base that saw a big warp in, and now soO is going to be ready for this. This initial engagement going really well for Zest, but we had a lot of Roaches and Lings in production. Here they come across the map now. More Adepts taking a ton of damage. We'll see if those Shades are able to pop into the main base, and yes, they will, but 4 Roaches already working for him, and this is just getting shut down. I mean, some drones will fall, but at what cost? This is almost 1,000 resources and Adepts going down right now, and Zest, he's trying to make a transition into a double Stargate fleet beacon.
Oh man, I feel like you're going to lose your third if the Zerg chooses to attack you. I mean, obviously, since we can see everything in the game, it's easy for us to call. We'll see if soO actually goes for it. Yeah, look, man, we've had this with Zest in the past where when it seems like a lot of other stuff isn't working out, he just starts making Adepts. And as each year passes, it seems like he loses more when he goes for these Adept builds, excuse me, to be honest.
Even this small attack here at the third base is devastating. I mean, Zest doesn't have a lot of resources to deal with this right now. He will eventually be able to hold, but that's almost by soO's good graces because he's droning behind this. He's not making more Roaches and Lings. This third base easily could have gone down.
But I guess he's already killed off enough workers. I mean, this third base is like a paperweight right now.
Oh, it's absolutely paid for itself. And at the same time, you know that soO is kind of scratching his head. It's like, okay, I know you have all these gateways because you just attacked me with Adepts. Where is your money, man? Like, what are you doing? And the Overseer is going to come in here and potentially confirm that double Stargate as the first 2 carriers are out on the map. And soO right now, he's got a Spire, so we might see some big Corruptor or Muta switch coming into this. I'm interested in seeing where he's going to take his response. But right now, I mean, the supply looks advantageous for Zest, but that's because soO is making 2,000 res right now.
Yeah, dude. He is, you know, you never really see 2 carriers come and attack alone in this game, but we're having that now. He's going to try to see what he could clean up with that here. And I guess you take whatever you can get. See, in my head, I was thinking, okay, if he's going to go for carries, he's going to have to stay back for a little while before he can really show this. But he's going to come up here. He's going to get what looks like at least 3 queens, right? I don't see another transfusion coming down.
This is surprisingly good damage right now. Taking off these queens is really nice.
This kind of reminds me of when we saw the battle cruiser teleport in, on Monday and start to kill stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess it really is a headache to deal with this air, these air units like this. And now this game has been turned on its head because, like, we're seeing a lot of damage, including 6 drones, multiple queens picked off here. 4 carriers are now out, and Void Rays are going to come behind with that. But here come those Corruptors.
Yep.
And immediately one is shot down. No!
Oh, almost got the second one there as well. Barely surviving. Flux Banes and 3 more Void Rays now in production. But yeah, that counterattack did much better than I thought it would. I was thinking the Spire maybe would be in time to get the Corruptors out, but right now, Zesty's got to be careful. That's a lot of Corruptors coming in. They're going to immediately go after that carrier with low HP, even popping a Void Ray as it's coming out of the Stargate. And 1 Corruptor will go down, but I mean, you trade that there for a carrier any day of the week. You do not want to let the Protoss, that's not going to happen soon.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I have all this APM. What do I do with it? He does pull the fleet forward here and picks off another Void Ray. Corruptors can be produced much more quickly than, you know, Void Rays or Carriers or anything like that. But am I wrong in that I think Zerg can just match the Void Rays with his Corruptors and win the fight, and then the game goes from there?
I think you're right about that, but it might depend on how defensively Zest plays it, because I think if he stays at home with static defense, with shield batteries, and he doesn't get caught out of position, he might just be able to hold on and try and reach a critical mass, because right now, soO, he only has a 7-worker advantage, and he's just now taking his 4th base. I think it just finished. Right at the same time that Zest is getting his up, so the eco advantage is not quite as large as you might expect, and that kind of goes back to that 2-carrier attack that we saw from Zest earlier, killing a bunch of drones and resetting the queen count a bit, but here we go again. I mean, these are scary fights right now.
All right, he's not going to be able to deny the Nexus. He still can't contest the Protoss air fleet. I think you're probably right, State. I think that damage that was done with the carriers early on really went miles.
It took me by surprise, because when I was looking at it from the observing point of view, I was thinking that the tempo was just a little bit too slow, that soO was going to be able to identify this and have Corruptors out earlier, but just wasn't the case.
You know, in fairness, we don't see Protosses be that active with small numbers of air units at that phase of the game. And so maybe it's a thing where soO, you know, didn't respect the actual threat that could be there. But again, I think if you just keep piling on Corruptors, you eventually strong-arm the Protoss. He's going to come down here and try to ooze down the Nexus again. Oh, or not. But basically, it's all to try to draw the air fleet in for an actual fight. He doesn't want to fight over batteries or anything else like that.
That is a lot of Corruptors, and once it gets to the number where he can one-shot Void Rays, it'll become very scary, because that pretty much nullifies the effect of shield batteries. But
so Flyer attacks is done, which might trigger him to come in and attack.
I'm surprised by the Roach Ravagers we're seeing in production right now. I suppose maybe that's because, like, if you're going for an engagement and you throw down Corrosive Biles, I mean, these air units, you see them right now, they're stacking up, and if those Biles connect, it's going to do a lot of damage, so Zest will have to move his army away, and when he's moving it away, he's not doing damage.
Yeah.
But, interesting to see soO try and navigate this. He is able to pick off one Void Ray like that, just one shot. Does trade out 1 or 2 Corruptors for this, going for a second, does get another.
Yeah,
and,
pulls back here. Air Weapons 2 is about to finish, which is only going to add more power here. Now, again, it's easy to just watch this from the Protoss's perspective and think, well, you know, he's not killing these carriers and Void Rays, but at the same time, you got to look at the map and realize that Zerg is continuing to grow here.
Right, there's no threat to the creep spread, for example. soO eventually is going to be taking another expansion, as we see that one pop off in the top left. And Archons, though, I gotta say, they changed the dynamic of these fights a lot, because suddenly there's much less risk of any of these air units for Zest getting picked off by the Corruptors, because the splash damage that Archons do on stacked Corruptors is kind of gross sometimes, honestly. Like, a couple of shots could pop all those babies.
Yeah, it's kind of insane. Zerg's maxed out, and Protoss is going to be maxed out shortly. And so we want to watch the amount of minerals and gas that are going to be banked behind that, because a lot of times when you have, especially with these play styles, which involve a lot of air units and a lot of posturing on either side, it comes down to both sides wiping their supplies out and then seeing who can fill theirs in better. And I think, to be honest, Zerg is just better at filling in their supply with what they need, because you know, essentially everything comes from larva. You can get exactly the right balance of what you need, whereas Protoss, it's like, well, you know, how many Stargate units can you remake versus how many Gateway units can you warp in versus how many Robo units do you need? So, regardless, we're going to see the Protoss try to push here. Again, with this many Archons against a Zerg air fleet, like, you got to be careful, man, as a Zerg, because Splash will just immediately kill everything.
All right, here we go. soO's really actually committing to this a little bit more than I expected, as the Banelings are rolling in, and he pulls back. I think he realized that was not the engagement he was looking for, but he ends up trading a ton of Banelings, a ton of resources that are going to eventually be sapped out from his bank just for shield damage on Archons. And if I'm Zest right now, I'm seeing that, and I'm thinking this is a huge opportunity.
If Zest can push through and do a lot of damage now, then he never could have, because that was such a poor engagement from the Zerg. But, you know, already we see the supplies filling back up here.
Yeah, the Remax coming in strong for soO now, and there just doesn't appear to be enough splash damage. This fight now for Zest is really not the best, because these Corruptors, they're kind of spread out. I mean, you see the numbers for the Sky Toss units for Zest. He's down to 140 supply, just 70 army, and Eventually, soO's going to be fully remaxed with all his units on the field, and Zest, he's trading out these units, and just like you said before, how many Stargates does he have? He can't really replace those critical units as quickly as soO can. If he wants to max, he's going to have to make a lot of gateway units, and that's not really what you want in this situation. It's a tough spot.
Yeah, it's rough, and I'll tell you what, man. I mean, I know this was, you know, one of the ways to play the game last year, but it's already looking kind of an anachronism, man. I mean, it's just an old way of playing, and we're kind of seeing it again be obsolete. We saw a lot of Protoss players basically lose with this style, you know, where this is going to be just a massacre here. Bane's on to Archons, because why not? Why not spend the money? You got to live a little. Oh, man, even that bile hitting the carrier.
That bile is money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I don't see the Protoss making a lot of headway here. We're kind of seeing the Protoss basically fight in probably one of the best positions you could fight in on the map and not make any headway. And by the way, that position isn't near any base.
True.
There's no threats that are being generated. I mean, the Zerg doesn't, I mean, right now the Zerg can dump so many resources, and he just has, again, into an army.
The one issue for soO right now is that his mineral income is not that great. If you look at his macro management, I mean, he has so much gas income, even from that high Vespene geyser over there on the left, that hatchery, that he can't really replenish a lot of the units that he wants to. And so, I mean, Zest right now, he kind of has the opposite problem. He has all of these minerals, and he doesn't have any gas to make the high-tech units that he wants. Like, he's got these Archons on the field, but that's about it. So we're now suddenly in a situation where, yeah, those fights for Zest, they were not the best in terms of straight-up trades, and we finally do see Vipers coming out for soO. The 16-minute mark. This is a little bit late. I'm surprised we didn't see these earlier, but that's so many Archons, and here we go, another fight coming in. Those Banelings not doing a lot of damage. Archons getting a lot of splash in, and this engagement's about as good as you can expect there for Zest, but again, it's hard to push in.
I mean, soO really did a great job at winning that air fight. We didn't see the charge on the Void Rays either, and so now it does seem like there's more air dominance here. Now, again, the Archons are going to be the ultimate threat here, so we want to watch for that, but it does seem like over time, oh, nice hit on those workers. You just want to try to kite as best you can against these Archons. They are going to get whittled down. If you don't have more Zealots over here, Lings can eventually overcome this. And the last carrier goes down. It's a ground army. Now, in this tech switch, has the Protoss thrown the Zerg off enough? I feel like it's barely a no.
I think he might have, though. I mean, he has 3,000 minerals in the bank. You look at soO, he's remaxing on 44 Lings and 3 Roaches, and yes, Zest's army did mostly get wiped there. These Corruptors are going to try and find some damage on a Nexus, but if Zest is able to really build up his production, I mean, he's hitting the main mining bases right now for soO. That could be 30 Zealots and another 5 or 6 Archons on the field in the moment, and soO, he's really going to have no response for this. I feel like maybe the macro management, the way that he was diversifying his economy between mineral and gas just wasn't there yet, because this 3,000 gas in the bank, it's not providing any utility, and if Zest is able to successfully spend all this money on a purely ground army, I don't know what the response is going to be for soO, especially losing these bases in the top left. I mean, like,
I think you're right. I think Zest may barely win this. Like, it was just enough to get to that tipping point. We see these Lings are going to surround this one Immortal, which is going to be pretty important to kill. He doesn't even kill that. Yeah, we're going to go to game 3, I think.
I think we are. I mean, kind of a topsy-turvy game where both players maybe not taking the best trades, but Zest eventually eking out the advantage over the course of all of these battles.
You know, there's a couple moments where soO really threw his Banes into the Archons. I think thinking it was going to be like a finishing, killing blow. And, you know, that really did give Zest this, you know, opportunity to punish hard. Now, we haven't ended the game yet. I mean, soO can still try to target down this Nexus, and the resource income is not that great right now for the Protoss, so let's keep that in mind here, too. Okay, he gets it again.
This helps soO a lot. This is the one thing he's really got going for him, because supplies are starting to equalize now, and I mean, unfortunately for Zest, I love that you harped on this earlier, how when you're the Protoss player in these situations, it's not like you have Larva and you can just build everything that you want with all your production.
Yeah.
Because if Zest had just gateways and no Stargates, or if he had even 5 or 6 more gateways and he was able to warp it a full gateway army after that last engagement, I think he might have just been able to run soO over, but instead he's just been trickling out this army, and that's barely giving soO enough time to stabilize. And so he's not out of the woods yet. He's trying to take this base down here at the 6 o'clock, and he's doing a great job of denying this expansion here at 12. Zest finally catching wind of this, and he's in position. He does not want that Nexus to get shut down again, but...
Now, there's a chance this game just gets drawn out. No, it's not.
Oh, I love
Tasteless,
that timing.
why are you allowed to cast the game?
I don't think you were wrong, but I mean...
I thought was it slowed down a little bit. I'm like, well, maybe soO just keeps making an army and tries to survive off 6. But yeah, Zest, I think long-term was going to win that. Kind of a crazy beginning to the end there when he just had enough gateway units out. You know, we saw enough Banelings connect on Archons, and, you know, I know in theory if you have enough money, it doesn't matter, you know, how the Banelings connect because you're just going to wipe them out and remake. But this game it did. soO did not have enough. He did not respect the threat that Zest had, and then Zest was able to power through with a strong ground and pound army. And we're tied up 1-1.
Yeah, we're going to be going on Berlin Guy for map number 3, and it's kind of been a slugfest, especially that last match. It felt like at different points, both players had chances of winning.
Super scrappy game back there between these two. And now we're going to settle this score, guys. It's tied up 1-1. Who goes on to the winner's match? Is it Zest or soO? We're going to find out now.
Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Zest. Guangdong Freaks. soO.
One thing that Zest does really well is block the natural expansion of Zergs. He sends that pro out so early. Like,
oh yeah, it's like he just wants to get in there and at least know what order you're going to take bases. Because if you block the natural, they take their third, but then you know their third base is also going to be at the natural, right? Which I think is smart because, excuse me, it's smart because there's actually, you know, a lot of times 2 places the Zerg can take a third base at, right? You know, like for instance on this map, it could be where we see the second base being taken now, or it could be like center left, kind of depends on the game. And a lot of times that ends up sculpting what kind of timing attack a Protoss can do. So I think you're kind of getting yourself into a position of at least knowing what to expect when you do this. And it's annoying.
It's very
annoying for the Zerg.
At this point, I mean, everyone kind of works it into the build. It's just like, yeah, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, no, I mean, at the top level, it comes and you just like move on. You've dealt with this a million times, but you know what I'm saying? It's
you're absolutely correct. And you also have to consider the travel time. Like soO in his main base right now, 16 drones on minerals, 3 on gas. He's got to send the rest of them to the third base, and that's an extra 5-10 seconds that drones aren't mining.
Right.
It adds up. But yeah, Zest is just, he's so quick about it. I think out of every Protoss player that I see, Zest is the one that sends the probe out the earliest, the most consistently.
Yeah. It's always going to get there in time to mess stuff up. So we've got the Twilight Council. Now, it's easy to forget, but let's mention again here, there were adepts made in Game 2.
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot the way that game started with how strange it turned out, really.
Well, it's pretty forgettable because, you know, so much of it came down to this sort of heavy air tech. So maybe we're going to have the adepts again. It does seem like it's once in a blue moon when the adept timings really work that well. It just seems like it's a thing in the game that Zergs have figured out how to deal with. You know, in the early days of Legacy of the Void, like adept timings literally smashed like everybody. Like it was getting to the point where I was actually cracking up in some of the games. I couldn't hold back how ridiculous it was.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
I was still active back then, man. Those were the good old days.
Well, nobody had really dealt with a thing like an adept before. Just the way it moved and everything.
Right, it was a really
and it was a better unit back then too. It hadn't been nerfed.
It was a very interesting unit to introduce into StarCraft 2. We've never really had an ability quite like that where it's like a delayed blink that can be canceled and your opponent knows exactly where it's going to go.
And then when people figured out that you can block their adept shade with your shade, which like,
PvP
remember
was
when
a
that actually
nightmare.
just happened? Like nobody knew about that, and then someone figured it out, and it was like everybody had to just scramble to.
I was so bad at blocking my main base ramp because you have to do it like every couple of seconds. And, then
And if they
delay
get
it.
their adept in your base and they kill 3 probes, you probably lost the game in the PvP. So it was bad.
Getting flashbacks right
Yeah.
now. And actually, the adept build that we're seeing from Zest is much more aggressive than last time.
Yeah.
He actually went for the Robo. He got the Warp Prism. This is the most refined possible build. He's at 34 workers right now, only 12 on minerals.
Yeah, very quick Warp Prism. This gets started right away. It's going to sync up right now. Glaives is done. So the Zerg is just now making the first real set of lings to try to fight this.
This is effectively an all-in, and right now, soO's sitting at 38 workers. That is not too much of an over-drone, but my concern for him right now is I don't think he actually has a Roach Warren, and if Zest is able to identify this and snowball and get a little bit more adepts, I'm not sure that... Oh, he does have a Roach Warren. Okay, so he has 3 Roaches in production. This is not the end of the world, but there's a lot of threat here between these adepts.
All right, he's going to go for the Warp Prism, and I was going to say a second ago, if you can't keep the Warp Prism alive, you probably lose the game.
This is not a good engagement there for soO, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He traded out all of his lings. He only got a couple of adepts down. He does have more Roaches in production,
But he can't send more in either. He's got to make another Warp Prism, so I feel like Zerg is going to be okay from here.
Did the Warp Prism get sniped there?
It did get sniped, yeah. The Queens targeted it. And so it's just these 4 adepts. There's another Warp Prism being made, but I feel like, to be honest with you, like, it's almost already too late. I mean, a player like soO, if you give him room to breathe for 45 seconds or something like that, like, he's already going to be ready for this. And
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, I missed the Warp Prism going down.
You're fine.
Because if that Warp Prism stays alive, then suddenly it could be really problematic trying to catch these adepts with just Roaches and a small number of lings. Instead, yeah, the wind is out of the sails for this push with Zest, and instead he's going to be taking double gas. He's going to build up his probe count again and go for disruptors. And I really like that as he was making that push, he made a robotics bay just as a fail-safe, because you know what the response is going to be to this. It's going to be Roaches, and the typical follow-up for Zerg is a Roach Ravager timing attack, or at least Roaches on the field. And
it's a really Zest game here to just kind of see him commit to adepts once more, and unfortunately it seems like it's going to not work. Some not optimized targeting here as well, we saw earlier. And, you know, Zerg in this position, he's got about 5 more workers here, so it's not an insane lead, but he's comfortable.
There's no third base coming down for Zest, though, and he's now getting Warp Prism speed. I assume he'll continue Disruptor production soon. Actually going into Blink.
He recalled that Warp Prism back because he wants to have the 2 Disruptors to come in here. So this is going to be do or die, I think. He is starting probes again, so he's at least concluding that if the rush doesn't work, he's going to try to have some attempt to come back into this.
All right, here we go. Disruptor shots coming out. The Roaches are actually idling right now. Those are huge hits there by the Disruptors. That's about as favorable as it can get for Zest, but soO, he still just has so many units. The Adepts are continuing to bleed out.
He just doesn't have enough to support this. I mean, it all goes back to that first Warp Prism. You have to be warping in Adepts every second you can. The build has to be optimized like that, and you know what? soO saw the Achilles heel. He took out the Warp Prism, which ultimately just terminates the rush entirely. And now we see he's going to come in here, try to kill some drones. Good split with the Queens, honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised if Zest tapped out with his next push here. This is going to be such an uphill battle to try and survive this. I mean, soO right now, all he's got to do is make Roachling Ravager, and Zest is going to be in a lot of trouble. Here we go, another Disruptor shot coming in. Not only able to connect with 1 Roach right there, and Zest, he is going up to 8 gateways here on 2 bases, so he's doing everything in his power to survive right now. Blink is still not quite done yet, so you have to Warp Prism micro some of these Stalkers if he wants them to survive, but there's so much Zerg. More probes falling down, and Zest kind of maybe digesting the loss a little bit because this is such an uphill battle. I would be flabbergasted if he's able to pull a win out of the hat.
I mean, any 2-base all-in, it's so hard, especially when you have your tech stuck like it is. It's like, how are you ever going to come back? And you can see Zerg freely powers up on 3 bases with a healthy amount of drones. And a 4th base whenever it's time. I mean, you basically just watch the Protoss. You say, okay, is he going to try to take a 3rd? I might try to kill him. If he doesn't, I'll eventually take a late 4th, and I'll kill him. I mean, you know, not all end games are made, you know, equally. Some are, you know, the most epic end games. Others, the game was decided somewhere in the middle, and I feel like this is one of those games.
I think soO's just gonna go for the checkmate move. He knows that he has a 50% better economy. He's got 20 more drones.
Yeah.
Just never let Zest take that third base. And Zest, he's trying everything he can to get back on the map. That's a healthy number of stalkers, but he needs the disruptor shots of his absolute life to make anything happen here. We see him moving across on the map a little bit right now, trying to get some more damage in and chipping away just piece by piece right now with these disruptor drops. It's about the best you can hope for, is picking off a couple of roaches. The real critical thing is going to be the 3 disruptor shots that happen in the big engagement, but soO's creep spread is so good. Those roaches, with roach speed, they're going to be moving so fast. I don't think he's going to be able to hit any good shots. We'll see, though.
Yeah, this is a very tough angle to make this work. Nice! He actually gets those 2 Ravagers. The problem is once you see the Zerg army actually take their shots, I mean, that's going to be a GG. soO wins the first best of 3 here in Group B. And I got to say, he looks to be in great shape. I think Zest is looking kind of like the Zest that we've seen the last couple years, which is good, but not good enough.
Yeah, just the adept timing is just really not working out. I feel like even in game 2, I don't think his opening really gave him an advantage. It was the carrier switch that allowed him to eke out a win there at the end and some really nice late game finesse play. But there in game 3, I mean, the trade with the Lings and the Queens, it looked like it was really favorable for Zest because the Adepts, he lost like only a handful of them and he was able to pick up all of the Lings. But as soon as that Warp Prism goes down, if you don't have another in the pipeline, the rush is over, just as you said.
It's kind of crazy how much that happens, by the way, when the whole rush is hinged on not losing the Warp Prism. Guys, Bunny vs. ByuN coming up next. We will be right back.